So firstly, I love interviewing. It's an important social research technique. I hate information theory. Information-centric approaches to interviewing are known to be flawed in human communication and therefore are flawed for interviewing. There's no way around it. The only possibilities you have are then, I think, to use some kind of communication theory if you want to understand what's going on during an interview. That seems to be a not unreasonable kind of thing to do. Select a communication theory. The one I've selected is a functional theory of communication called systemic functional linguistics, and it's got quite some form in this, in Australia, I would say, which is where it was created. It has two contexts. So every completed communication, active communication, has two contexts. An immediate one, which tells us what's going on, who's doing it, how it's being done with language, and a second context associated with an organisational culture or indeed a national culture, which provides staging, a kind of pattern. We can use that pattern to actually develop an interviewing practice that's based around communication theory. It's, I would argue, an ethical approach to interviewing. Now, this is, I guess, a summary of everything that I did in the book. I never called this, I was quite modest when I titled the book. I called it Elicitation Strategies. I didn't say this is a new theory of and a new set of methodology, a new methodology for interviewing. But it is in fact that. It's a new theory and a new methodology for interviewing. So I'm calling that, I'm saying, well, this is a genre-based interviewing approach. Its full name would be canonical genre-based interviewing, but that's a little bit of a mouthful. So I'll just drop that first thing. I think it's a new theory of interviewing. I wanted to talk a little bit about where I think this work might go. First thing I want to do is test to see whether, whether other domains are useful. I've used a very particular technical domain. I want to test to see whether that other domains in management and marketing, in operations, can be approached this way. I believe they can be. The second thing is communication theory is very amazing. It has the ability to be applied at a meta level. I want to see whether I can apply these ideas of canonical genre to the training of people learning this particular interviewing technique. So I'm applying it recursively or at a meta level, right? So I think the same theory can be applied to looking at the training of this particular technique. So that is something that I'm looking at actively now. The other thing is I've shown quite a lot of diagrams. All of them can be used as a basis for developing systems to support people in the field during interviewing. Refer to that collectively as field support systems. Right? I would like to see those built. This is also part of a much larger research program. I took interviewing because I do a lot of it. I want to understand how it works from a communication theory perspective. So I've taken a set of practices, interviewing practices, which really have not been properly theorised as far as I can see, and applied a theory to them and reworked them methodologically. I'm going to now start to look at techniques which I know to be completely flawed, that are actually described as some sort of method, but which I can use communication theory to attack. And the ones that I'm going to look at are, in particular, sentiment analysis, which I've talked about in previous crop meeting. I'm going to really hammer that through. The next thing I'm going to do after that is look at how communication theory can create entirely new methods, methods that can't be created any other way. I'm looking particularly at a technique called transitivity to explain the experiences that people have. That's one dimension. The second dimension is I will then move all of that towards information systems, but in a particular way. The first step will be to look at how methods are theorised within information systems approaches, and I will apply It's called method modeling. I will apply these communication techniques to method modeling. The second thing is I am going to take an existing approach, which is called metamodeling, which is used in emergencies, modeling of systems to support emergencies, and I will demonstrate how it is flawed as a technique for developing systems. There are some major problems with it. I started doing research in this area and it stopped because my colleague started to see what I was doing, ran away. So I'm literally going to take that approach and I'm going to break it. I'm going to demonstrate how it can be broken and explain it using these, using communication theory. The final approach will be to develop information systems entirely using communication techniques.